Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening to everyone present, depending on where you are right now. And I, on behalf of this team, KAICIID team, want to wish all of you a very happy International Peace Day. And this is our webinar specially dedicated for that. And we hope that you enjoy, we have some amazing panelists, some keynote speakers, and we hope you have a good takeaway, good time with us through this panel, right? I will take you through some ground rules very briefly, and then we can begin. Just to be started, please know that this call is being recorded. If you wish to watch or share this webinar recording, this will be on KAICIID YouTube webinar channel. During the webinar, you are welcome to participate by writing your comments and questions in the chat. Please use the raise hand option should you want to speak, and this kind of interaction is rather encouraged. The presentations will be in English only. Today is the International Day of Peace webinar, which provides us with time to look into the ways in which meaningful progress towards peace building and peacekeeping can be achieved. We are delighted that on this special day, we are hosting this webinar with our partner organization, the University of Peace, which is dedicated to promoting peace internationally. It would be great if you could introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know where are you coming from, what's your profession, and feel free to engage with participants and speakers on the chat box. Right. So this year, the Security Council unanimously passed a resolution calling for member states to support a sustained humanitarian pause to local conflicts. The global ceasefire must continue to be honored to ensure people caught in conflict have access to life-saving vaccination and treatments. Like we all know, the pandemic, the virus has been indiscriminate. It has affected all across the world, all across sections of communities, but we must also acknowledge that it has affected people and communities unequally. In line with this, our theme for today is focused on healing. Our panelists will share experience, thought, and expertise to discuss the ways forward towards a more equitable and sustainable world following the pandemic. I will begin by introducing myself. I am Sneha Roy. I have recently joined KAICIID as the Fellows Program Officer, and it is my absolute pleasure to be moderating this panel today. I will begin with introducing our Secretary General, who's here, who's very kindly agreed to give the opening remarks. His Excellency Faisal bin Mohammed will be sharing his words today. Sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And I would like to welcome all of you for attending this webinar. It's really a pleasure of meeting everybody, and also welcoming the joint webinar with UPeace. I am always thinking of this International Day of Peace from different angles. When we think about it, especially in the modern time, after World War II, there are some conflicts in the world where it's man-made. It's really what we faced through, conflicts in different parts of the world where it happened because of so many issues, or sometimes because of civil war or whatever it is. So we've been seeing or following what initiative or the United Nations initiatives or any initiative in the world to deal with all this crisis. And this International Day of Peace, it's a reminder, reminding us of how to look to the process of peace in our daily life. I am always concerned about man-made conflicts and other conflicts like COVID-19. You know, it's really, you know, we are seeing a failure of dealing with conflicts done by human being. So we always see how the way how to narrow the gap among different societies, and how to build the bridges, and how to live in peace, how to enhance the coexistence, and how to do so many things. That's one of our duty in this center, and we are proud of it. And we did what we can to bring religious leaders to the dialogue table to support policymakers. And this is one of the issues where we decided that hate speech and other issues, exclusions, and other issues facing different societies, it is in the top priorities of our work at KAICIID. So how to deal with COVID-19 and I mean what happened with this I will say a sudden crisis, which is really not I will not call it a human-made crisis. It's really coming from, we don't know where how did it happen, but how the whole world responded to this crisis is really shows that we have a gap, and we have really major issues we have to face, between rich countries and between underdeveloped countries. So we need really to think about it and to see how we can bring this discussion to the theme of this webinar. Peace is not passive from a simple lack of conflict, arising from a simple lack of conflict. Peace is active, transformative. It calls us to action in the host of fronts to be discussed today, in climate change, in gender violence and inequality, and economic justice. So this is how I would like to call for our panelists and jointly between KAICIID and UBs to see how we can bring some suggestion to institutions, international institutions, where they can implement some of the recommendations. We need to really to act and to see how we can get everybody involved in this, especially the role of religious leaders and the role of religious institutions. I don't want really to lecture you about peace, because you are experts and you know what to say about it, but I see there is a huge conflict in the whole world between what we see, the crisis after COVID-19, and also the military failure and political failure in different parts of the world. We are facing an increased rise of political extremism, religious extremism, and failure of political and military solutions, like what happened in Afghanistan. We need really to wake up. We need really to see how we can learn from our mistakes, and to do whatever we can to respond to the call from United Nations for a sustained humanitarian pause to conflict, so that the effect of this disease, which still has its foot in the throat of the weakest among us, may be met head on. So this is really what the United Nations call for, and we should respond to it. I would like to welcome everybody who joined us today, And thanks UPs and our friend Francisco Rojas Arvena, the rector of University of Peace, and we welcome all of you and wish you good luck in this webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Your Excellency. Your kind words have resonated with most of us. And thank you for setting the note right by using the terms active peace. And thank you for reminding us the importance and relevance of it. Thank you so much. We are also honored to have the rector of UPeace. Unfortunately, he was unable to join us today, so he sends his message through a video. We'll play the video in just some time, and we'll just have to be considerate because he committed for some thing in advance and was unable to be with us today. I hope we can. If you have any comments or questions about the video, because he couldn't be here, please leave that on to the chat box, and we will make sure it reaches to him.
Francisco Rojas Aravena, Rector of University for Peace. A statement on the Day of Peace, the International Day of Peace. The international context shows a growing disinstitutionalization and increase the mistrust and the emergence of various conflicts. During the past 18 months, the pandemic has aggravated the situation. We observe low level of cooperation, new and deeper inequalities that mark trends expressed in a more poverty, more hungry, more malnutrition, and more disputes. There is also greater protection, nationalism, and trade tensions. Politically, there is a growing of authoritarianism and discredit of democracy and populist messianism, which put in pressure of the society. This is taking place inside of a profound crisis in the global multilateralism, which is destroying years of institutional building. Without trust, there is no cooperation. The absence of cooperation making impossible to achieve progress and peace. We are facing an international system failed with uncertainty, which is evolving rapidly. Trends of insecurity are accelerating. Without human security, there is no development. Without sustainable development, we will not have peace. In the context of high conflict, there is no possibility to exercise any rights. In the global system, old and new wars tend to be perpetuated, with a serious damage to civilian population and rampant violation of human rights. In the day of peace, we need to reinforce culture of peace and non-violence. Cooperation makes it possible to create a shared vision. In the day of international peace, the task is to reinforce multilateral structures and institutions. If this not work, progress became impossible. Trust makes possible to build institutionality and cooperation. Trust is built through education. The University for Peace conduct research and teach based on critical systems and basic principles of peace education, of which culture of peace and non-violence is an integral part. Solidarity in the context of the pandemic is essential. Compassion is the key for the recovery of the humanity. Confront the climate change is a common task. We need to protect and build our common house. There is no alternative. Helping one each other. We live in a more conflictual global and regional scenarios. The role of culture of peace is to provide guidelines to de-escalate tensions, confront hate speech, and offer options based on tolerance, peaceful coexistence, and non-violence. The culture of peace teaches peaceful coexistence, democratic coexistence, and the path for global progress. The post-pandemic scenarios are marked by the decision taken today, which mark the future. In the day of international peace, we need to promote and work for peace. The University for Peace focuses its program and initiative on base of culture of peace and non-violence, search in the spirit of the UN Charter, better work for peace. These are expressed in our mission. If we want peace, we have to work for peace. Thank you.
Those were some really powerful words from the rector. Without further ado, we would go ahead, and may I please request our first panelist, Dr. Ramjad Mohammed Saleem, who's a political scientist with extensive knowledge on peace building, humanitarian affairs and development work, to please present and share his work. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Neha. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Your Excellency, Faisal bin Muhammad, my
Dr.
fellow
Saleem, we cannot hear you. Can you please unmute yourself?
Can you hear me now? Yes, good.
Yes,
thank you.
good. Thank you. I can hear you, but I don't know about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. So, my fellow panelists and participants of this webinar, thank you to KAICIID and to the UPeace for inviting me to share a few words on this very important topic, on this very important day. As has been said already, peace is active, peace is with us, peace is something that we all need to strive for. I've been asked to maybe share some thoughts as to what does it take to kind of help to transform this world. And I probably want to start off with a story of a man who comes home from work extremely tired, and he wants to come home, he wants to read the newspaper, and his little 7-year-old son wants to come and play with him because he hasn't seen his father. And so he pesters his father to play, and then his father gets really upset. He wants to read the paper. So he goes to a magazine, and he sees there's a picture there of picture of the world. It's an atlas. So he takes it, tears it up, and gives it to his son and says, "Can you build this as a jigsaw puzzle?" And he hopes that his son will take a couple of minutes or a couple of hours to do that. Within about 10 minutes, the son comes back and says, "I've done it." And then the father says, "How did you do it? It was so quick." And he says, "Well, you know, on the other side of the picture of the world was a picture of a man. And so I just put together the man, and I got the world." And for me, that really speaks to this aspect of, if we really want to start to build peace in the world, we start with the man, we start at the local. And that is something that I think that COVID-19, the pandemic, has taught us, has shown us. It has shown us the power of the local community and local agency, local response, in terms of how people have responded, because we were not able to fly and help people. We had to go local. We had to depend on our local partners and our local organizations, local civil society, local faith-based actors and organizations. So the fact that we needed to go local it means that any solution has to start. Any solution for building peace has to start at the local level, and faith-based organizations are part of that process. COVID-19 has not exacerbated the inequities. I would sort of say it has shown us the inequities. It has made clear where the inequities are. And the inequities are not just homogeneous, right? They're heterogeneous, they're intersectional. Your vulnerability is dependent on not just your gender, but or your disability, your age, but a number of intersecting factors. And so for us to respond to that, I think it's important that we understand that. And so the challenge for us moving forward as we build this man or build a community is, what is the role that all of us can play to do that in a space where meaningful gathering has changed spaces for engagement has changed. The internet has sparked new ways of engagement, but also isolated us, where we have different trends that are coming, that are emerging, that are confusing matters, where we have new challenges such as mental health challenges that are coming up, that are challenging the way that we are looking at the problem and challenging the problem itself. People are no longer one-dimensional. We see them in their lives, with their families, with the challenges that we have. So if we really want to kind of start to address this issue and start to bring about solutions, you need to be able to understand that intersectionality, that heterogeneity of people, and that inherent contradiction of inequity. And so the challenge that we have as local actors, as local faith actors as well, in many forms, is how do we meet this moment on some of the critical ethical issues? How do we host and facilitate those spaces for conversations? How do we build partnership and work together between organizations that normally didn't work with each other? As has been stated already by the rector from UPeace, trust has been broken and trust needs to be rebuilt. We need to build that sense of wonderment and engagement, and the role of dialogue. And then this is where KAICIID plays an important role in this, and the work that it does in terms of interreligious dialogue to kind of build that foundation of trust is important, because trust is only built when we are able to take responsibility to build relationships, to create those spaces, and to ensure for respect and to reflect. Trust is also about ensuring that we know one another, and this is where dialogue comes in. And so part of the challenge that we have is how do we start to create and rebuild that trust. I have one slide that I wanted to show, and I don't know whether Yasmin on this could share just my one slide that talks around trustworthiness. And just to sort of say that trustworthiness, this is an equation for those of you who are mathematically inclined. Trustworthiness is credibility plus reliability plus intimacy divided by self-orientation. So credibility is about how credible you are, or, you know, how true you are to what you're saying, how valid you are in terms of the work. Reliability is really around, do you say what you do and do what you say? And intimacy is how well you know someone. Self-orientation is about ego. So the higher you have self-orientation, the higher the ego goes, then the lower aspect of trustworthiness that we develop. So if we really want to build trust, it is about ensuring that we keep these various factors in check. And so what are the next steps for this? Where do we have to go in this? And this is where I would like to challenge sort of myself and my colleagues here about inspiring and change and building those individuals. That the starting point is trust. If we really want to start to build those communities of sustainable communities, we want to address vulnerability, we have to start with trust. We have to start with building the trust. We have to start with building the space for dialogue. And all of us have a role to play. This is not done by one person. And we need to be creative. We need to be innovative. We need to be disciplined. The Victorian explorer, Sir Richard Burton, once wrote that faith is false, all faith is false, all faith is true. Truth is a shattered mirror strewn in millions of pieces, which, while each believes his little bit the whole to own, in his mind, he meant that you will find parts of the truth everywhere and the whole truth nowhere. And so this concept of a shattered mirror enables us to see that each of us holds one part of a complex truth. So distrust comes when we consider that little part, one part of the mirror that we have reflects the whole. So building trust is about building that mirror. And that requires us to really work together to build that that mosaic, and that is our partnership that we need to start to work towards. And that is where I think that the journey starts. The journey starts with that one person you can reach out to build that relationship and to ensure that respect and to take that responsibility. This afternoon, and happy International Day of Peace.
Thank you so much, Dr. Saleem. Like your presentation was so wholesome, you know. It had a story, it had the pertinent questions in it, it had a mathematical formula, and it had a lovely quote. So thank you so much. It gave us a lot of avenues to think about and go ahead. And that is what KAICIID values, and that is what we, you know, bear in mind in strategizing steps ahead. Thank you so much. Our next speaker today is Sister Pailin, who's joining us from Malaysia. Sister Pailin is the president of the Buddhist Missionary Society of Malaysia, and she will be telling us more about a recent interfaith initiative. Sister Pailin, please go on.
Thank you. I'll share my PowerPoint. I'll start. Okay.
Yes, please. We can see your screen. Go ahead. Thank you.
Okay. Salam. Peace greeting from Malaysia to His Excellency and to all. Happy International Day of Peace. Recovering better for an equitable and sustainable world. It is in this most appropriate and timely to focus on dust as the world over is gradually recovering from the ravaging COVID-19 pandemic and the resultant fallout from the varied degrees and versions of lockdowns. Reflecting upon this, what strikes me is what can we learn and what have we learned from this pandemic, which most will agree is an accidental teachers. On that premise, I would like to share 3 points on this crisis: its adversity, the opportunity, and way forward. First, adversity. The COVID-19 pandemic struck us at the very core, so devastating that the human race has never encountered. It was not just a health crisis, but also an economic crisis that dealt deadly blows that took lives, shutdowns, and brought businesses to its knees, and left many an individual not knowing when their next meal would be. In all the gloom, it is not all doom. There is an old saying, Chinese saying, crisis is a turning point, 危机是转机. The turning point brought about by adversity in Malaysia was unity in diversity. For a country with a population of diverse ethnicity and different cultural and religious background, it is a challenge to put in place a lockdown or movement restriction, standard operating procedures, SOPs that fits all. This gave cause for a greater collaboration in the interest of all. Religious leaders of all the major religions were invited to provide relevant inputs in preparing the SOP for places of worship and also the observance of religious and cultural festivity. Unprecedented and with no past references to form the basis for such common SOP for all. It was not always getting it right the first time. Though frustrating for the end user, those were valuable lessons. One very apparent lesson was the unity in diversity. And to be noted, unity is not uniformity. It is a brand of unity that is to be inclusive and equitable. With the religious populations in Malaysia as high as 97.9%, religious leaders thus found themselves with a particular important role in helping to put together SOP that adherents of different faiths found common ground in being inclusive, equitable, and in the best interest of all. An example of best interest is vaccination. It became incumbent on religious leaders to play a role to encourage their adherents to get vaccinated, as shown in the PowerPoint. Second, the opportunity. Here, I would like to refer you to the Chinese word for crisis, which is combination of two characters, threat and opportunity. It is therefore commonly accepted, particularly those of Chinese ethnicity, that there is opportunity in crisis. The lesson to be learned from this crisis of COVID-19 pandemic is the new windows of opportunity that open up for us Buddhists in terms of access and the practice of the Dharma or teaching of the Buddha. Opportunity for Dharma activities sprung up and proliferated online to the extent that teaching by Dharma master accessible only to those where they were physically present became accessible to all, far and wide, not limited by geographical boundaries. Opportunity also arose for those better off to help those less fortunate. I would like to share an initiative by Buddhist community called Metta Pantry, a community pantry of food items for those having thin wallets and not knowing when the next meal will be available, based on the wish to let no one go hungry. This is another initiative by a consortium of 20 multi-ethnic and multi-faith organizations to help to raise funds to help the frontliner. I will not elaborate, but go to the last point. The way forward, it has dawned upon us that this COVID-19 pandemic has shown us that we have been taken to a new normal. What is normal is no longer applicable. It is the new norm that will be the way forward. From the lesson learned, we have to realize and accept and live with the new norm of doing things in our daily life, in socializing, and right through to our religious activities. Leveraging on the power of technology, all adherents can come together from their respective corners of the world for the religious activities virtually. The world has changed and literally become smaller, but better connected. It is incumbent for both the young and the old to adapt to this and ride on the new wave to learn and acquire new technology and skill. This pandemic has brought us together to be one big connected family. The faster we embrace this will enable us to recover better and stronger from an inclusive, equitable, and sustainable world as a big family. To conclude, this pandemic conveys a strong message to us that we are one family. We are connected. When one family member is not well, the rest can be affected. COVID-19 does not discriminate, like you said. It also emphasized that need to care and support one another, especially the vulnerable and affected community, with compassion and kind assistance for swift recovering for a peaceful, equitable, and suitable world. This is SDG 16. Thank you for the opportunity to share.
Thank you so much, sister. It's so inspiring to hear what you've done, your organization in Malaysia. And thank you for showing us, sharing with us the interventions of religious leaders, actors, and community workers in addressing this crisis. Thank you so much. Moving on, we would like to now hear from Grandfather Dominic Rankin, who is a former hereditary chief of the Algonquin Nation. Grandfather Rankin leads a non-profit organization dedicated to reconciliation and the revival of First Peoples traditions alongside his partner, Mary Jose. We welcome you to please share your experiences now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. I'm happy to be here with you and to see you. It's a very special day for us all.
On a tous le même langage.
We all have the same language.
Je voudrais remercier les gens qui ont parlé avant moi.
I would like to thank the people who spoke before me.
Ici au Canada,
Here in Canada,
toutes les différentes nations autochtones,
every First Nations,
c'est la fête.
we consider that this day is a celebration.
Il y a des feux sacrés partout allumés ce matin au lever du soleil.
Started different sacred fires everywhere in the country at sunrise.
Dire miigwech, l'été qui vient de passer,
In
et
order
saluer l'automne qui vient d'arriver.
To thank the summer that has just passed and welcome the new season of fall.
Nous vivons tous les jours
Every day we live
de notre terre maman.
in contact with our Mother Earth.
On voit la destruction tous
And
les jours.
every day we can see the destruction also.
Nous prions beaucoup
We pray a lot
pour essayer de mettre au niveau pour la santé des gens.
to try to help everyone to come back to good health.
Je vais vous parler de la terre maman.
I want to talk about Mommy Earth.
Quand la terre maman souffre, nous souffrons.
When Mommy Earth suffers, we suffer.
Tous les animaux souffrent.
All the animals suffer.
Je fais partie dans une famille de peuples de nomades.
I belong to a nomadic family.
Il y a un nom qu'on donne à toutes les gens comme nous tous ici.
And there's a name we gave to everyone we can see here, for instance, today.
Nous sommes tous Anishinaabe.
In my language, we all say that we are Anishinaabe,
Anishinaabe qui veut dire en harmonie avec la nature.
which means a human being in harmony with nature.
Et tout ça, cette vision-là ce matin,
And this morning, this vision,
on demande au Grand Esprit
we asked the Great Spirit
de nous donner la force
to give us the strength
et d'accepter tout ce qui se passe
to
dans la vie.
accept everything that is happening.
J'ai entendu le fameux le COVID-19
I
qui me
heard
touche beaucoup aussi.
That you were talking about COVID-19, and we are also affected here.
Je suis toujours heureux d'attendre les hommes scientifiques.
I'm always happy to hear the scientists,
Et notre vision,
and our vision
c'est d'être assis avec des gens scientifiques.
Is to be able to sit with scientists,
Parce que nous sommes des gens qui vivent vraiment sur la terre tous les jours.
because for us, it's important to sit and live with the earth every day.
La terre maman nous donne tout, la santé,
Mommy Earth gives us everything.
que ce soit mental et physique.
She gives us good health, mentally and physically.
L'éducation chez nous,
Our education at home
c'est toujours verbal et visuel.
is always visual and verbal.
Quand on regarde la terre maman,
When we look at Mommy Earth,
on voit la rivière qui coule, ça fait partie du groupe sanguin de
we
notre
see
terre maman.
the rivers and we understand it's like her veins on her body.
Et les montagnes, c'est le corps de maman.
And when we look at the mountains, we'll say it's her body.
Et les arbres, ce sont ses cheveux.
And the trees are like her hair.
Et on donne tout à les femmes pour protéger la terre parce que c'est elle qui tient la terre, maman.
And we say that we all need to protect women because we know that women hold the earth.
Les femmes donnent la vie, la terre, maman donne la vie.
Women give life and the earth gives life.
Nous, on est en arrière de tout ce beau
And
monde-là.
us men have to be behind all these beautiful beings.
Les hommes, c'est pour soutenir
Men are there to support
de toute la médecine
all the
qui est
medicine,
féminin.
the feminine medicine.
Quand on travaille ensemble,
When we work together,
on a appris avec l'expérience la fameuse histoire des passionnants indiens ici.
we've learned through the experience we had here, unfortunately, with what we were calling the Indian residential schools for children.
Et toutes ces expériences-là, aujourd'hui, qui nous aident à foncer vers en avant.
But after this terrible experience we had to endure, we've learned that we can go forward.
On doit se réconcilier avec la terre, maman.
We have to reconcile with Mother Earth.
Et pour la réconciliation,
But for that,
ça prend la vérité.
we first need truth.
Et la vérité, pour moi, c'est très fort.
And for me, truth is very powerful.
Ça nous amène dans des visions positives.
It always takes you to a positive vision.
Je suis invité souvent dans les organisations quand on parle climatique.
I'm often invited to talk about climate change.
Je suis toujours fier de voir des gens qui se réunissent pour aider la terre, maman.
I'm always proud to see people gathering together in order to help Mother Earth.
Et des fois, ils vont dévier l'objectif de cet rassemblement
But
pour aider la terre, maman.
sometimes they lose their goal of helping the earth.
Nous, on a besoin tous ensemble pour qu'on trouve toujours un langage pour la terre.
So we need to talk together so that we can have a common language to help Mother Earth.
Chez nous, on ne dit pas la terre,
In my language, we don't say the earth.
on dit maman. C'est
We
notre
say-
terre, maman.
We say mommy. She's a mommy.
Quand que maman souffre, nous
And
souffrons.
when your mommy suffers, we suffer.
Notre terre, maman, n'est pas un business.
Our mommy earth is not a business.
Il a besoin de ses enfants
She needs her
pour
children
sa guérison.
for her own healing.
Nous pensons
We think
toujours de futures générations.
always about the future generations.
Je suis content de vivre à ce moment ici.
I'm happy to live through this
Je,
era.
je parle toujours de dépolluer notre terre, maman.
When we talk about taking care of the pollution,
Mais il faut commencer par nous-mêmes à se dépolluer à
we
l'intérieur.
have to start removing the pollution within our own selves first.
On ne se pose pas trop de questions.
We don't question that too much.
S'il y a trop de questions, c'est sûr qu'on va se perdre.
And if we ask ourselves too many questions, for sure, we're going to get lost.
Nous focusons vraiment vers la guérison.
We have to really focus towards healing.
Aujourd'hui, c'est ce langage aujourd'hui en travers du Canada de donner l'espoir qu'on puisse donner à boire aux enfants l'eau.
My hope here in Canada is that one day we can give back water, pure water to our children.
On parle, quand on parle de polluer la terre, on donne de l'eau à boire les enfants avec nos propres des écorces de boulot.
I wish we could see the children drink straight from the river with like we used to do with a birch bark glass.
on veut enlever complètement l'affaire de plastique.
I wish one day that there are no more plastic bottles of water.
Nous sommes tous dans la même vie.
We all have the same life.
Et j'ai entendu parler de COVID-19. Nous avons aussi cette microbe.
We also face the COVID-19 over here,
Mais on parle beaucoup de la guérison.
but we constantly prefer to talk about healing instead of disease.
Au niveau climatique,
And to finish with the climate,
j'aimerais aller m'asseoir avec les gens scientifiques et
I would
donner mon
love
expérience vivante
sitting
directement de la
with the
forêt.
scientists so that I can give my direct experience of the forest.
Je suis venu au monde dans la
I was
forêt.
born in the forest.
Ma mère a donné 18
My
enfants.
mom gave birth to 18 children in the forest.
Alors, j'ai connu la vie
I
de la
know
forêt.
the life of the forest.
Je connais mes animaux.
I know my animals.
Je connais mes oiseaux.
I know my birds.
Toutes les petites bestioles sur
All
la
the
terre.
little insects.
Ce sont des êtres vivants.
They are all living beings.
Je suis très fier de faire partie de la religion pour la paix.
I'm very proud to be part of Religions for Peace and KAICIID.
De m'avoir écouté.
Thank you so much for listening to me.
Je vous aime.
I love you all.
Thank you so much, Grandfather Rankin, because the manner in which you speak, it goes on to show your feelings, towards the ecology, and it's just so genuine and so heartfelt that it's inspired us all. And thank you. We know that you're extremely busy. Thank you for taking out time to speak with us. And nonetheless, also, Ma'am Jose, thank you so much for constantly translating. We know it's a difficult task. So thank you so much for doing that for us. Thank you. Moving on, we are delighted to have Dr. David Priyana with us today. Dr. Priyana serves as a part of the permanent delegation of UPs to the United Nations and UNESCO. Dr. Priyana, thank you also for facilitating our partnership for today's webinar, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for your sound moderation. Distinguished colleagues and friends, it's really a great honor for us, for the University for Peace, to organize with our partner organization, KAICIID. And in particular, I want to thank His Excellency, Mr. Faisal bin Mohammed, for the support in doing together the celebration of the International Peace Day, which this year is devoted for a specific topic, dialogue for peace. We should remember that humanity today is facing a global crisis of such magnitude that we don't have a record of the broad impact of the COVID-19 pandemic is generating in all the areas. The COVID-19 pandemic is one of the most dangerous challenges this world has ever faced. This is what declared the UN Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Gutierrez, last year. In fact, the pandemic has brought about essential changes in health, in economy, production, trade, social relations, and the relations in international systems and between the major powers. It also affects the most diverse areas of the planet and all the levels, especially with regard to health. This is something I would like to remark, to the health and economic development. The global recession will have direct effects on poverty and hunger all over the world as a consequence of the fall of the production and trade, as well as on the resources of individual states. The post-pandemic and the post-global crisis effects will produce a profound, lasting, and long-term harm. For that reason, it will be necessary to design another reality that can apply the lessons from the humanity generated by the pandemic regarding the protection of the planet. In this way, and I think conflict resolution is an essential aspect of good public health practice. The right to health is an inclusive right, extending only to the timely and appropriate health care, but also to underlying the determinants of the health. We need to recall an important resolution adopted last year about the importance of the global solidarity to fight the COVID-19 pandemic. Solidarity, this is the basis for the post-global pandemic crisis. The states should ensure that medicines are available, accessible, culturally acceptable, and of good quality. Developed states have a responsibility to take a step towards the full realization of the right to health through the international assistance and cooperation. Current health inequalities regarding to the access to medicines demonstrate the need for the states to respect their obligations and the international law to protect the right to health. In the struggle against the COVID-19, people in poverty are threatened by the coronavirus. Human rights should be in the center to tackle the public health threat posed by the COVID-19 pandemic. This COVID-19 outbreak, we should remember, has forced governments to put in place policies to contain the spread of the disease among the population in the context of the state of emergency. United Nations urgently remind the states that any emergency response to the coronavirus must be proportionate, necessary, and not discriminatory. States parties to the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights cannot resort to the emergency powers to derogate the non-derogable provisions of this covenant, of this international treaty, such as, for instance, the right to life, the prohibition of torture, the prohibition of slavery or slave trade and servitude. The COVID-19 outbreak confronts the international system with a severe crisis affecting both individual citizens and society as a whole. The COVID-19 crisis is a global situation that could lead to an unsustainable and dangerous framework affecting the individuals, the groups, the community, and the society as a whole. The current crisis of COVID-19 should be understood in the context of the UN legal humanitarian framework. The Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, launched on the 25th March 2020 the famous COVID-19 Global Humanitarian Response Plan. And to finalize, I would like to say some words. We have some challenges posed during the post-pandemic 19 could be the future, for instance, the future of the work. This is something that has been underlined by the International Labour Organization, the future of the work, the food security, and education. For this reason, in order to mitigate the effects of the crisis of COVID-19, government response needs to focus on health protection and economic measures. In the context of this struggle against COVID-19, it's important to recall the right to food. The right to food is a right, but also the right to be free from hunger. It's an important consequence of this important fundamental human right. And least point, it's education. Education should be directed to the full development of the human personality and the respect of human rights and fundamental freedoms. The right to education is the only way to combat discrimination and intolerance and hatred. And we should, recall that one of the consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic is the right of the hate speech. This is something has been underlined by His Excellency, and I absolutely agree, His Excellency Mr. Faisal bin Muammar, Secretary General of KAICIID. We have studies, we have reports about this important threat to the stability and the security of our society. For that reason, we need to fight against the hate speech. And for that, education is a key and important element to equip the people in the direction, but without affecting their freedom of expression, in the direction then to live in a more peaceful society. In this day, I want to thank very much all the panelists. I think they have been great and they have been inspiring us about the future, about your remarkable work and example in this common endeavor that is to reach a more peaceful society. Thank you very much. As I said at the beginning, it's really a great honor for us to commemorate the International Peace Day together with our partner organization, KAICIID. Happy Day of International Day of Peace. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Priyana, and wishing you the same. Thank you so much for offering insights on these frameworks on how to view this public crisis on COVID-19. You talk about human right frameworks, you talk about human obligations and shared responsibilities, and also how things operate at governmental and intergovernmental levels. So thank you for sharing those experiences and insights. Moving on. Unfortunately, our next speaker, called Dishani Jaivira, couldn't be with us because of some internet connections at her end, but we have someone who will be talking on her behalf. Sinthuja Shanmuganthan, can you please confirm that you're online? Are you here with us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're perfectly audible. Thank you for joining us and sharing on behalf of Dishani. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we have the slides, please?
Yes, we'll just share her slides in a moment. Yes, there you go.
Yeah. Thank you all. So I'm going to read and share whatever Ms. Dishani wanted to share in this plenary. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, dear friends. In the last 1 year, we as a reflective learning community have taken this phase of human evolution as a crossroad to stop, reflect, learn, unlearn, relearn, and redesign our lifestyle. It is a humble journey with humans walking with us for the past decade. I would like to take you through the journey we initiated last May 2020. Can we go to the next slide? I am Dishani Jaivira, faith keeper, and trying to be one of the wisdom keepers of our community. Our community has 3 wings: Apinam, Religions for Humanity, close to 200-member interfaith religious leaders circle; Women, Heal the Soul, Mind, Body, and Soil, a collective of women religious leaders, women, young women, and girls. Then Sanyok, Interfaith Youth Collective. We are under the umbrella of Center for Peace Building and Reconciliation, Home for Diversity, founded by myself and Professor Jayanta Seniviratna. This presentation and videos designed and presented by Sinsan, Young Faith Keeper. On behalf of all of them, I am here with you. Next slide, please. We believe we are children of Earth. We as humans, not above all other creatures, we are equals to all creatures. We are interconnected, interdependent. Then the question we raised in our circles to reflect is this represent in our political, economic, social, cultural systems and structure? Does this represent the way we humans connect with the earth? Are we really children of earth? We are in this conversation. Here, I pose these questions for your reflections and conversations also, because we need to start a new conversation. Next slide. Here you can see two circles. One is how we place humans in the earth system. This is how Mother Nature set the system, but how we humans interpret it. We set human on top of it. We set a system to build our collective ego thinking. We are superior and have authority to design the earth system as we need. Is it working well? Where are we now? According to our community, faith, we humans inherit 5 elements: air, fire, earth, water, and space. Balancing these 5 elements is our task to grow as a human on spiritual, emotional, and physical levels. But it is the hardest task. Why? Let's see. Let's see what happened to us, why we couldn't balance 5 elements, where we were when COVID is arriving, the reality which we are waiting to go back. We know we are products of the capital system. Which element was taken to set up the capitalist system? According to our reflective conversation, we identified fire is the element we took to set up the system. It is an essential element in human existence. But when we take only one element as a key driving force, our balance has vanished. I don't want to talk about what kind of world we created and crafted for our next generations. You know better. Our question is, can we go like this? Don't we need a system which balances all 5 elements? Then equity and sustainability is a natural outcome. This is for reflection and conversation. In this context, as conflict transformation practitioners, we need to listen to all sides. Since Corona speaks in its own way through its behavior, we try to empathize and put it into words. How we hear when we listen to Corona. We invite you all to watch this craft to hear what we hear. Corona Speaks by Sinsan. We can watch that clip now. We believe COVID is a messenger of Mother Nature, not to fight with us, not to punish us, but to let us stop, support us to think through. Let us start a new conversation. In that conversation, we as community found 3 paths. Next slide, please. The 3 paths are very clear. One is the fixing path, which we all know well. Our question is whether this fixing will work. Is it our responsibility to for each earth and our future generation? Right side is the transformative path, which we suggest, which we try to walk through with our small communities as we can. It's a path of healing, connecting and innovating micro communities, microsystems, and structures to balance 5 elements in personal community levels. We believe That's where we can experience equality and sustainability. There may be many other paths which other wisdom keepers will innovate. We keep that safer space for innovation. We as humans are living in a crossroads of human civilization. What path we need to choose? Keeping this open space, I say salam. Our deeper gratitude for creating safer space for us to share what we believe. How we do what we suggest is another story. Warmly, Dishani Jaivira on behalf of CPBR community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sansan. I'm so sure Dishani is going to be proud of the presentation. It was really very impactful, be it the way you presented or also the visual aids. And it goes back to what Grandfather Dominic has already shared. What you say resonates with what he said, and it just goes on to show that how the pandemic has made people think about our relationship with our environment, and how bringing the environment into consideration is necessarily a step forward in talking about peace. Thank you so much again. Our last speaker, last panelist for the day is Michael Johanna from Egypt, who will be telling us more about his NGO and his initiatives that he has been involved in. The floor is yours, Michael.
It's like we start and we helping people with stability. And then we are registered, we working with other people like women, like children. So we are working in a lot of things in the Egyptian society. So we believe in COVID-19 crisis, we should help people, we should working together and have a cooperation, all of us, because we live together. In the past, I think in about 1954, 1955, we have old movie called Hassan and Morris and Cohen. Hassan, Morris and Cohen is a old film, very old film. He's working about the Jewish and Muslim and the Christian work together in a business and how they can deal together. So Egypt in the past is very, very wonderful place to live together, and all of people can work together. But we have some conflicts, maybe in 1978, 1970, after the war. So we have some problems, some conflicts. But I believe if we are work together and all of us help together, it's a better place to be. So we started with people, especially with people with disability. We help them to have a good opportunity to live in society and change the vision about them. So it's very important. And we also believe in our foundation, we believe in children. Children, they are the future. So we should teach them about peace building and how they can deal without any problem. So it's very important thing to them. And also for the Mommy Earth, we working about aquaponics, we working to people how to deal with the weather, how they can deal and live in a good way. We also have some things we do, like we have Muslim and Christian people team, they are working together in the Egyptian society and they make a lot of activities. So they change their mind at the first and then change the society. So it's very important. We at crisis management, Corona crisis COVID-19, we working in the society and help people. We have family, a great family and big family. It's very important thing. We helping people working with the government as a first to support about 1,700 families. And also we are making a charity work with the government. And with KAICIID, we are working in the project about social media and Facebook because we believe at first we should have awareness, so we make awareness with them, like awareness about resilience and how we can working with stigma, social stigma, because we have some problems with social stigma from the doctors and nurses. So this is a problem what we are working on it. So we have a good training with KAICIID at Zoom. We use application Zoom, it's very good. And Corona making a chance to we can working not on site but with online. So it's a good thing. We hope always people live together in peace. It's a decision. We should take this decision to trust, as my colleague said. You should have a trust with others and working together. It makes a change and difference in yourself. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Michael, Johanna. It was interesting to see the level of community engagement, and thank you so much for sharing your experiences. We can now open for question and answer. We have 2 questions on the chat box already. I'm going to read it out and refer it to the panelists. But meanwhile, if anyone has any question, comments, please feel free to engage in the chat. So the first question is Dr. Saleem, it's for you. How to start peace at local level?
Thank you.
Hinfuilim, yes.
Thank you very much. Not an easy question, but I would probably say that the first thing, as I said, is start taking that responsibility to reach out, right? Build that relationship. I mean, for me, trust building starts with the foundation of trust building is dialogue. The parts of dialogue that I feel that reach to trust is, first of all, to take responsibility. Take responsibility to reach out yourself. I think what we've seen from COVID is the fact that people have taken action by themselves. The government, civil society have all have weaknesses, and local people have stepped up. I think that's what we need to do. If we want to build peace, we need to take responsibility. We need to be able to build that relationship with people. And then we need to be able to respect the diversity that we have and their opinion. Diversity is a fact, and so we accept that. We accept that differences. And then reflect. And I think this is where the space that KAICIID and other organizations offers is really, really valuable. That space to reflect, the space to come back and to think and to ponder, to think of the connections between Mommy Earth and us. I think these are opportunities for us. So first thing I would sort of say is do that. Just start that process, and then reach out to bring in others who are not necessarily in your circle. Reach out to that person. Most of us have stereotypes, have misinformation about the other person, and then when we actually reach out to the other person, those stereotypes break down. So the first thing I would say is, if you want to start peace, reach out to the other, reach out to dispel those myths. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Saleem. You speak for so many of us that indeed the local has been the basis of the support system in terms of this crisis that all of us faced. And when spoken to people, most of them said that they found comfort and hope in the local ecosystem, the local system of support. So that really does speak to many of us. And also in terms of the self and the other that you mentioned, this pandemic has showed us that the it's all blurred now in a many way, you know, the boundaries between us and the other. And that challenges us to think as to how do we define, you know, our support systems, our local channels, and how do we channelize peace after all at the local level. So thank you for giving us your insights. I will move on to the second question, and that's referred to to Grandfather Dominique. So what is the most effective way to educate the public to love Mummy Earth? It's a very complex question, but we trust you to answer it.
Merci beaucoup. Pour moi, j'utilise toujours dans mon expérience pour rester en vie.
When I answer this kind of question, I always try to use my own experience.
Et, trouver ma fierté pour aider la Terre-Maman.
I had to find my own pride first in order to be able to help Mother Earth.
De me respecter moi-même.
I had to start respecting myself before respecting the earth.
Et accepter qu'est-ce que je vois, qu'est-ce que je reçois.
I had to learn to accept things that were happening,
que ce soit positif ou négatif.
positive or negative.
Et de me donner de l'amour aussi.
I had to learn to give myself love first.
Pour que je puisse donner à notre Terre-Maman.
In order to be able to love Mother Earth.
Et je sois aussi beaucoup dans la vérité.
I also had to learn to live in truth, authenticity.
Mon père, il m'a toujours dit,
my dad always said,
donne-toi tout à toi.
Give yourself everything.
Pour que tu puisses donner à partager la vie à d'autres personnes, surtout notre Terre-Maman.
That you can start helping and giving to the others, and especially to Mother Earth.
Et surtout vivre dans la paix à l'intérieur de moi, d'être libre aussi.
To be peaceful and free within yourself.
Que je puisse vivre en harmonie
so that
tous
you
les
can
jours.
live in harmony every day.
Je me lève le matin.
I wake up in the morning.
Je m'assieds devant, direction à l'est, parce que c'est là que la vie commence.
I always sit direction east because that's where life is beginning.
Et je bois la médecine la plus forte au monde.
And I drink the medicine, the strongest medicine in the world.
C'est de l'eau.
It's water.
Je bois 4 fois de l'eau dans un verre.
4 sips of water.
Le premier, c'est de m'engager moi-même
The
envers
first
moi-même.
one is to commit towards myself first.
Et deuxième, pour donner le second souffle à la Terre-Maman.
And the second sip is to help Mother Earth being rebirthed.
Et je dois aussi de pas trop prendre ses souffrances, c'est de réparer ses souffrances.
Remembering that we should not take all her suffering on our shoulders, but instead trying to find ways for her healing.
Ça, c'est moi pour donner vraiment un soin à notre Terre-Maman. Je l'aime, maman.
This is how I consider that we can help Mother Earth and feel the love for Mother Earth.
Tous les matins, je suis en contact avec la Terre-Maman.
So every morning I start with being in relationship, in contact with Mother Earth.
Marcher les pieds nus sur la terre sacrée.
Try to walk bare feet on sacred earth.
Je suis certain que vous voyez des fois des Autochtones avec des cheveux longs.
I'm sure that you have this image of First Nations people with their long hair.
J'ai porté plusieurs années des cheveux longs.
I had those long hair for long years.
Et ça c'est qu'on appelle l'énergie de la Terre-Maman.
Because we say it's like connecting you to the energy of Mother Earth.
Quand on se met à genoux
When we
devant
kneel
le
down
feu sacré,
in front of the sacred fire,
on baisse la tête vers
we
la
lean
Terre-Maman
toward the earth
jusqu'à temps que les cheveux touchent
until
la
our
Terre-Maman.
hair touches the earth.
On les appelle les guerriers de paix.
And we call them warriors of peace.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And every time we have a conversation with you, we learn so much. And it's amazing to see this relationship that you have with the nature and everything around you. It's so positive. We hope to take back some elements of this with us today. So thank you so much. There is a question by Iman. Question to His Excellency. How can young Saudis join KAICIID in Saudi? So enthusiastic and glad to join. Thank you for this question. Unfortunately, His Excellency had to leave. He has another meeting lined up. But I would encourage Iman to please visit the KAICIID website. You have a number of ways in which KAICIID is especially looking at youth engagement, and I'm sure you'll find opportunities to have conversations with us or engage with us in one of our projects. There was another question posted to us, to the host, and the question is for Dr. Priyana. How has the experience with healing from COVID impacted the mission of UPs? What are the ways forward?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the question. How UPs have been dealing with this issue, if I understand. Yes, we, as a University for Peace, we participated last year in the G20 conference or high-level meeting that took place in Saudi Arabia, because they had the presidency of this important annual meeting, no, that this year is under the leadership of Italy. And then we were doing with other authors an impressive research about how it's impacting the COVID-19 to the people. And then we we reached some interesting findings. One of them is, as I explained in my speech, the increase, the dangerous increase of hate speech in the world. Also, we are also part of the UN management team, the UN security management team in Geneva, with all the UN partners, and we were dealing during the COVID-19. We were dealing with this the reaction of the United Nations system, the response to this new threat that we had we started many months ago. We also provide, trainings, trainings to the diplomatic corps about, the effects of the COVID-19 on the diplomacy. We have been doing a lot of, webinars on with them, with the diplomatic corps in the Middle East in the past month. But going to the issue, how also we can, deal at the local level, no? And I think it's also important then to the best to underline the best way to settle the disputes among the people, among the citizens in any society is respecting the rule of law and justice. No, I think this is the best way then to settle the conflicts, going to the tribunals, going to the courts, instead of fighting among the citizens. No, I'm talking about in a society among citizens. But when we go beyond the citizen and we have states, we need them to find ways to settle the disputes in a diplomatic manner, respecting the United Nations chapter. But this is, Ms. Moderator, I have been going also to the first question that I think I wanted to add some points on that. No? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, it takes a while to switch on the video. Thank you so much for addressing the question very articulately. I think we are towards the end of our event today. So thank you so much for your participation. Special thanks to our panelists. We know how very busy everyone is. But thank you for taking time for this very important talk. May we please request all of you to just, show up, switch on your camera so that we can have a group picture of all our panelists, things that we have to do in the Zoom world. So yeah, let's all pose in a way. Sinsan, are you okay to switch on the camera? If not, it's all right. We can anyway see a lovely photo of you. So brilliant. Baha, are we ready?
Okay, smile, please.
Thank you so much. And yeah.
May I just have another shot, please? Thank you. We would like to see you all smiling again. Thanks. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So I think I speak for everyone when I round this off and say that it's been a good session. We learned, a lot today from different people, from diverse contexts, and it's been a very, very enjoyable afternoon, evening, morning, depending on whoever, is placed where. And thank you so very much for the inputs and different frameworks that will, keep our conversations going. And yes, also thank you to the organizational team here today at KAICIID. They put in a lot of hard work, as you can imagine. And thank you for all the tech support and everything that goes behind the scenes. Thank you especially again to our panelists, and we hope to engage with you continuously in different parameters and different projects that we have. And we wish you all a very, very happy International Peace Day from KAICIID. Thank you so much. Liz, over to you.
Thank you very much for everybody attending. Thank you to our viewers and participants, and I look forward to organizing another webinar or maybe in-person meeting and conversation. Fireside conversation would be great. Look forward to seeing you all again. Bye.
Thanks, bye.
Thank you. Good night.
Greetings from Canada. Thank you.
Okay. From Malaysia. Bye-bye.